Okay, so this is when my father had passed away. Now I smile because I know he's in heaven and I know everything is okay with him. This is going to be short and sweet because as a medium, you don't really, I have never come across really handling my own people who have crossed over. It's usually more disconnected. I've always had a better way of connecting with people I have no connection to whatsoever. I know that doesn't make any sense. Hopefully, there are other mediums out there that understand what I'm saying. But I was so close to my father in life that I think that had a lot to do with it. Now, we knew he was dying. It was a long time coming. He fought to the bitter end to stay around. Korea and Vietnam vet, he didn't know how to die. He just didn't. So he needed to go, and I think we all knew he needed to go. He knew he needed to go. And a couple days prior, maybe a week, I came over to visit, and I had never met his mother, my grandma Mac. But I walked in the side door, and I immediately felt her presence. I was like, Grandma Mac's here. What? And so I knew my father was dying. I knew what that meant. I knew she was coming to cross him over. But I was just, hi, Grandma Mac, even though I never met her. I've never talked to her. It's not like this happened all the time in my life because it didn't. This was the very first time. I always felt like I knew her from the stories, but I knew she was waiting for her son. And so I knew it was a matter of time. So I did tell my family that I think he's getting close because Grandma Mac's here. And he did die within a few days of me sensing Grandma Mac there and everything. Now, when he died, I got there within so many minutes, and people by that point were running around like chickens with their head chopped off. Not to be funny, but I'm just saying that's how they were running around. Now, my father would find it funny. That's why probably where my sixth sense of humor comes from is my father. He actually did laugh because I'm sitting there stirring soup at the stove within feet of where he had passed because they had a cot in the kitchen set up for him, and he had died within like an hour or two. So I'm stirring soup going, you know that when you're in so much grief and shock that you're not really comprehending anything. So I'm sitting there stirring soup for my niece so she can get something to eat. I can't remember why I was stirring the soup, but anyway, I was stirring it, and I immediately got my dad, his face like right in mine, laughing hysterically. He thought this whole thing was funny because everybody's sad, everybody's running around, his death created chaos and fake mourning as far as he was concerned, and he thought the whole thing was hilarious. And I'm going, what a way to bring you out of any kind of shock or mourning you're having is the person who actually died telling you this. And I'm like, Dad, like in my head I was like, Dad. And he's like, this is hysterical, this is the best thing ever. He knew he was gone, and he thought this was funny and ridiculous. Okay, so I know, well, I'm keeping this to myself. This is not something you bring up in the moment of somebody's death. So even if they know what I'm doing and what I do for a living, or not for a living, but what I've always done, I talk to spirit. I'm just going to stir the soup, not saying a word. And I didn't tell people for months what happened. So I'm just sitting there going, okay. And then months later, no, this actually happened. My husband is a witness to this. That night, I'm laying in my bed. It's 11 o'clock at night. I know this for a fact. I'm laying there. My husband's up watching television or whatever. The kids are asleep. I'm laying there talking to my dad, just telling him, and I'm like, I know you're kicking it in heaven, and I know you're having a party, and it's nothing to be sad over. My phone right next to my bed the alarm starts going off. And I'm like, what the? I was like, I knew it was my dad answering me. You know what I mean? I knew it. Because one, I would never set my alarm for 11:02 at night. It was 11:02 that I even looked at my phone. The alarm was set for that day at 11:02. So he did that. So it would go off. You know what I mean? Like he did it in the moment. He didn't plan it. Like he did it in the moment to set the phone off. So to tell me, I hear you, and yes, I am having a party up there. You know what I mean? And I was like, I got you. And I came and I told my husband, because he heard the alarm. I go, my alarm just went off when I was talking to my dad. Like, so he was there. He heard it. He witnessed it and everything. I mean, he wasn't in the room, but he knows I don't lie either. So, and he knew my dad. My dad was a joker. Oh my God, he was an insane joker. So this is right up the alley of my dad. Like, thinks everything is funny. Okay, everything. So then, like days or weeks after that, I was sitting on sitting in my living room on my window. My daughter had the couch. My baby boy, he was really young, was on the floor, I think, and his toys were all around. And one of his toys talks to you. I can't remember specifically what the toy is, but maybe my daughter would remember. It would turn on, or you would turn it on and it would start talking, and then when you turn it off it would go goodbye, that kind of thing. All of a sudden we're just sitting there talking, and I don't know if we were talking about my dad or not. I don't remember, but my daughter was around 10. Yeah, about 10, and she knows what mommy does. She believed all this stuff at this time, or at least somewhat, because and because she had her run-in with fairies and things like that, so she was kind of like in the middle, mostly believer, but and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the toy turns on. Nobody's near it, nobody's anything, and it's like, and I can't remember what it was doing, and she's like this, like freaked out, and I go, don't worry, it's my dad. And I go, Dad, it's not funny, you're scaring her, turn it off. And it goes, goodbye, and it turned off, and she's even more frightened that it did what I told it to. And then it turned back on again. And it's like, blah, 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 and she's like, she was frozen in fear. Frozen where she was at. And I'm just like, Dad, that's enough. It was like he was in the room. It wasn't even like I was talking to a spirit anymore. It was so comfortable, and so our relationship, I'm like, just turn it off. It's not even funny anymore. And it was like, goodbye. And I'm like, for real. And then it turned on again. And then my daughter is completely petrified, like beyond. I'm like, that is enough. That is enough. So now I'm trying not to yell at my father, because it sounds nuts. And I know my poor daughter's already scared enough as it is not to hear her mom yelling at the air. Turn it off. Goodbye. And it shut off. And I'm like, Dad, I realize you think this is funny, but it's not funny. I get it, but this isn't funny anymore. You are literally scaring your granddaughter. This isn't funny anymore. Turned on one more time. And the things that I had to say to my father at that point, I said in my head. My daughter did not need to hear that. I let him have it in my head. And the last thing I said to him, I'm like, if you do this one more time, that toy is going in the garbage can outside, and you will never do it again. And then it went, goodbye. And it never did it again. Never. We kept the toy. I didn't get rid of the toy. So, yeah, that was my dad. Nobody else. But my daughter was a witness to that one. So, yeah, that short and sweet of my own father in spirit. So,